doing? My name is Jason Ostrowski from Wonderland Multi-Vintage. Welcome to my shop. Come on in and take a look at some of the items that Chicago's had in its history for the past 100 years. I got stuff in here basically all found in Chicago, or 90% of it at least, and it's basically a nice cross-section of what people had in their houses from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 20s, 30s. Basically you got 100 years of Chicago history in here. And it's just a little bit of everything. I try and find stuff in different price ranges to help the people in the neighborhood use stuff that's vintage in their homes, as well as stuff that's a little bit more towards collectible end of things. So.
Can you show me some special items? A couple personal favorites?
Personal favorites, eh? You know,
Things
stuff
that,
like this, like Monster Magnet from the 60s, good representative weird toy from the 70s. Everything. Loft fan, old signs from automotive service stations, Chesterfield cigarettes.
What do you have in here that's not for sale?
You'd have to come into the back room for that. I got a little bit more stuff back here. Kind of messy, but you get the idea. Coke signs.
This is all stuff that's not for sale?
Yeah, this is all stuff that's in my own personal collection.
Can you show me a couple personal favorites?
Personal favorites. I'm a big fan of Casper the Friendly Ghost. I have a huge collection of that.
What is it about Casper that you're so fond of?
I just always thought he was an interesting cultural icon in the sense that he was always outcast by society before people really understood him. And
what is there to really understand about Casper?
You know, people are people regardless of what they look like, what color they are, whether or not they're
invisible
or ghosts or whatever. But basically, you know, a lot of people just looked at him and got scared, mostly on first appearances, which, as we know, is not really the full circle of a person's personality. So,
where do you get most of your stuff from?
Pretty much like Chicago estates, mostly stuff in Chicago here in the western suburbs. A lot of older accumulations in that area. People that built Chicago, you know, in the 20s and 30s had these bungalows, and a lot of attics and basements loaded full of stuff. So I advertise and go to tag sales and auctions. People throw away just about everywhere 24 hours a day. So.
How long have you had your business here?
I've only been in this neighborhood for a little less than a year. We've been open about 6 months here. And so this is my first WIcker, or first retail location period. So.
What were you doing before that?
Mostly traveling around doing shows in the same business, you know, selling antiques.
Can you tell me a little bit about that culture?
That's kind of a gypsy culture still. Like, you know, a lot of people travel around all over the country looking for and selling their wares. I went from the East Coast to the West Coast and just about everywhere in between for pretty solid for close to, you know, 10 years or so. So, you know, it's pretty much the same just about anywhere in the United States, just a little bit different stuff. Maybe people are looking for a little bit different thing, but great people in the business, you know, that I've met over the years.
What do people think about your personal collection? What's some of the feedback you get from your colleagues?
You know, everything from, I suppose, I don't know, lack of understanding to, you know, really intense appreciation. Just depends, you know, a lot of people look at it and think of it as junk, you know, a lot of people look at it and think of it as, you know, this wonderful icon that says so much about our culture and whatnot. You know, to me it's just all really neat stuff. I especially like stuff that has a lot of color in it. You know, I like primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. You know, it's hard to say.
Do you continue traveling at all, even though you have a retail outlet now?
I still travel everywhere from, you know, California to New Jersey, so I'm still out there always looking for the big score, or you know, to be able to sell some stuff on the road.
Do you know what the big score is, or you'll only know it when it hits you?
Well, you know, you generally have a pretty good idea, especially once you do it for a while. When you get a good buy, you know, you tend to know. A lot of it is mostly based on supply and demand. There's a lot of stuff that's really old and you know, people think is an antique, but when it comes right down to it, it's kind of, you know, common stuff. There's so much stuff, especially in Chicago, because we have a pretty big population, and like I say, a lot of attics and basements, so a lot of the stuff did get kept. The antique roadshow scores that you hear about are pretty few and far between. You know, when I say that's something that, you know, someone finds in their attic or tucked in the rafters, it's worth like 10,000 or something. You know, I've been doing this for, you know, pretty much looking for stuff practically every day for almost 15 years now, you know, and I'm yet waiting for my big multi-$1,000 hit off of something that I found or something. But you know, you have good hits. Mostly it's about just keeping a nice inventory of interesting stuff that people can either use or collect, which is what I try and do here. Just have a lot of different types of stuff on hand for when people need or want it, they can come here and find it.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about the difference between always being on the hunt because you're a collector and you have a passion for it, and at the same time always looking for things that you can sell, you know?
Yeah, that's tough, you know, especially like being a small business just starting out. You know, you tend to get undercapitalized, and then you got all this great stuff that you can't cut loose with because you have some kind of sentimental attachment to it. But you know, hang on a second, sorry. Wonderland multi-vintage. Hi. Not a whole lot. Can I call you back in about 5 minutes? Okay. Thanks a lot. Are you at home? Bye-bye. Okay.
So,
what was the question we were on?
Difference between being a collector for things that you really love and your passion, and at the same time
Yeah,
looking for things to sell.
It is hard, you know, because I got a lot of stuff in here that it'd be nice to, you know, of course, get the money for, but I've never really totally been in it for the money, I suppose. I'm kind of more passionate about the stuff, and to me it's always about, you know, having a lot of neat stuff around to look at and to tell a story of some kind, you know.
Yeah. You feel like a historian?
Yeah, definitely a historian, a 20th century above ground archaeologist, so to speak. So.
Do you feel appreciated?
Every now and then I could use a little bit more appreciation, I suppose. It is like, I'm sure, a little bit more of an art and a lot of work along with it than what most people think of, I think. You know, when you hear, you know, people hear the stories of antique dealers, you know, coming in and getting stuff for nothing and selling it for $1 million, you know, well, that rarely happens in the business, I could say. It's a lot more work. And, you know, I'm always buying cool stuff with all the money I make, so it's...
Can you show me a couple super scores, things that you're really proud of having found, discovered? What are your babies in here? You got a million things, but there's got to be some that you're really attached to or proud of. I mean, what's up with that little space age machine gun right up there in front of you?
Space age machine gun. That's actually my favorite toy from when I was a child.
Great.
That's pretty much was the basis for me and my cousins' toy activities around the time we were about 8 to the time we were about 15. And this is a gun in which you load this car into the cartridge here. It looks like a bullet in a case when you put it in there.
Can you take that again?
Put it on the ground. Goes in its little cartridge there, makes it like a bullet. And you put it in the thing, lock it and load it. Off she comes.
Yeah, nice. A car shooter.
Yeah. You know, shoot it at buildings and whatnot. Here's an interesting piece. I've never been exactly able to determine what it is, in fact, but it's something that I've had in as a part of my life since I was literally about this big rather, way small. My great-grandfather had this in his little curiosity drawer when we moved into his house when I was a kid, and I just always loved it, kind of thought it was scary and fearful, yet I had this strange attachment to it.
So have you taken your grandfather's everything. What did you call it? What kind of drawer?
Just I forgot what I called it, a little whatnot drawer or whatever, you know, just had all kinds of weird stuff in it from the 20s and 30s, which is when most of his stuff was from, so.
Did he
Let's
pass
go
that
back
on to your
out
father?
into the shop here real quick. Yeah, he passed it on to my dad.
What kinds of things are you most likely to sell?
Out of here I sell a lot of lamps and, you know, things that people can use in their home. As well as, that's the fun thing about it. You never really know when you deal in stuff like I do. You never really know what people are going to buy. You just try and have as much interesting and unusual stuff as you can. I kind of try and find stuff that's one of a kind, so it's always hard to figure out when you're looking for that stuff what exactly people are going to look for. I kind of, you know, focus on just trying to find stuff that I think is cool and then hope that there's someone else out there who thinks the same way as me. So,
What neighborhood are we in here?
we're in Wicker Park, Bucktown area. It's another old area of Chicago. This street here in Milwaukee is like one of the old Indian Trail streets that runs on an angle, so it's a very old, well-traveled street in Chicago that's seen a lot of change, I would say, over the past, especially over the past 20 years.
So when you decided that you wanted to have an actual retail location to stop the sort of traveling, what made you decide that this neighborhood was the place that you wanted to settle into?
It seems to be like the most like up-and-coming neighborhood, and I liked it because it seems to be a changing neighborhood where there's a lot of people that are moving in and investing in the neighborhood in hopes that it will, you know, continue to evolve and change and upgrade over the years, and it's basically why I'm here. And I think it's a wonderful little location here in Chicago because you got so many, you got everything from bars, small taverns and restaurants. A lot of great restaurants, a lot of neat little kind of trendy stores and artists area, a lot of loft art studios, and it seems to be where a lot of the stuff that makes Chicago tick happens right now happens in Wicker Park, Bucktown. So,
What's the hardest part about what you do?
the hardest part is keeping up with the stuff coming in and the stuff going out. I get so much stuff in here that it's, you know, I'm always bringing stuff in every day. So keeping the stuff cleaned and priced and tagged and looking presentable is something that's important to me, and takes quite a bit of time.
You have to dust in here very often?
Yeah, pretty often, almost every day. Another thing about Milwaukee is it's probably like the dirtiest street in Chicago. It runs on an angle, so all the dirt seems to tend to blow into here.
Can you tell me about this 8-track right here?
This 8-track here is made by the Weltron company. It's a good like late 60s, early 70s piece. Actually, yeah, 70s I would say. And this is what most of the 8-tracks that were stylistic looked like in the 70s.
Looks like a
Spinning, it's got a
hair dryer or
little
something.
equalizer, tuning. It's got a both 8-track and a receiver on it.
What 8-track do you have in there right now?
Joyous Songs of Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Terry Baxter and his orchestra. Not a particular favorite of mine, but you know,
Well, you know
you never
Terry.
know what people are looking for.
Does that come with it?
I could include that for you if you're interested in that.
Pump it up. Let's hear what it sounds like.
All right.
Classic rock artist of the week, Led Zeppelin. Straight through at midnight tonight. It's easiest of the whole, you know, and you have to stop and choose a Zeppelin album. We could choose any one and everybody would be thrilled, but tonight our choice, of course, is
princess phone, so he's not kidding either.
He's not selling himself short?
No.
What's your role as an employee here?
I'm a master of the eBay empire.
Really? Is that a whole different element to what you guys do?
It's but I mean it really there's a good intersection. You know, the stuff there's a slightly different genre as far as what you can sell there or here, but it just kind of completes the Wonderland circle.
What is eBay?
eBay is a community of sorts in which people buy and sell items of various sorts. It's cool.
Do you feel like you're selling out? I mean, this seems like a pretty up close and personal
No,
thing.
I think what it is it's staying competitive because there are so many people doing it in this business. You can't compete just, I think, by having a shop like this. You know, it's sort of a tragedy from a purist such as Jason's standpoint. You know, he sees eBay as sort of like a sellout of sorts, where people who don't know anything about what they have can list it, and its value is determined by someone else, you know, an expert a lot of times. So it's just a matter of remaining competitive in that arena.
So do you only sell on eBay, or you also buy?
I purchase personal things, tools, stuff like that. Occasionally, you know, a mislisted item. I know that Jason collects Casper items, and occasionally people misspell the word Casper. Things like that.
How does one misspell Casper?
AR instead of ER.
Huh. So what's your role here other than the eBay liaison?
You know, vacuum floors, anything breaks, I fix it. Watch the shop a couple days a week.
Sweet.
Who am I talking to anyway?
My name's Len.
Len. Nice to meet you.
So, Jason, can you tell me a little bit about the tragedy? What's the downside of being a dealer like this and having your stuff up on eBay?
I don't know if it's as much a downside. It's just that you know, it's a pretty competitive business, and it's not as easy as people think, and that's one thing that makes it easier for people, I guess. He's coming from a defense of an experienced shop owner, in the sense that what Jay was talking about was more it makes it easier for people to get stuff, I would say, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you're looking for something. But if you're a store owner like myself, it's like any other business. The internet has become something that we all have to contend with. We all have to make use of it if we can in our specific little niche, and it's something that's new, and it's something that's just kind of evolving now towards the end of the 20th century, and it's something that I'm sure will be with us for a while. So.
Yeah, the end of the 20th century is come and gone.
Yeah, this is true.
So that's really more in your business practice than in what you sell that you really involve changing technology, huh?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. You know, it's just kind of a different venue. There's different venues. You know, before it used to be shows were a lot more important. You know, we talked about the gypsy concept. You know, you'd load up your van and go out, and that's not necessarily the way it has to be done anymore. You can get a computer, digital camera, and just simply take a photo of something and describe it and list it in the right category and go for it. But there are still plenty of things that fortunately are not able to be sewn, or not able to, but not perhaps the best source out for selling is not eBay on a lot of things, fortunately. So like anything else, it's just keeping on top of what is and trying to put that on there. Keep the other stuff for the store or other customers, whatnot.
Anything else you want to tell me about sort of this lifestyle, about your shop, about this neighborhood, or anything about what you do and how that reflects the way you think about the world?
I think that I'm a much more sentimental person as a result of doing this. You know, I've seen a lot of people over the years and talked with a lot of people over the years about, you know, the stuff and where the stuff came from, and what events in Chicago the stuff came from, you know, whether it be the Century of Progress or the 1959 Railroad Fair, you know, all these items that you see in here, someone bought them originally, you know. Unfortunately, in this business, I often get a chance to converse with those older people that really are a part of history, and by buying and selling this stuff, it gives me a nice sentimental attachment to our culture, our history, our design interests as a country and as a people in general. So I really wouldn't trade it for the world, this business, mostly because of that. I enjoy the hunt and the history, the historical aspect of it, and you literally never know what you're going to find, you know.
Cool. Anything else you want to say, man?
That's it.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.